All right, let me call the, planning and zoning committee together, getting late. And, first and foremost, is there anybody here who'd like to speak publicly on anything on our agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. Each of you got a copy of the minutes?
Second.
All in favor? Tom, I have not been well informed as to why this meeting was. I was just called by Jerry, said he set up a meeting and was gonna leave.
Okay. So Jerry's not here.
Now he's come to play in a band. No, really, he's going to listen to a band.
I've got three amendments and then budget stuff. So the amendment to the zoning ordinance passed the planning commission for, you'll recall, I brought forward a flood damage prevention ordinance, and then at the 11th hour, FEMA came in with TEMA with a couple of additional modifications to the ordinance. And those are, if you look back, on page 7 of 36, they added letter of map change with the abbreviation LOMC, means an official FEMA determination by letter. The amends or revise an effective flood insurance rate map or flood insurance study, and letters of map change include colon, and then they go into the definitions that we already had. And then, back on page 18 of 36, we already enforce this because we had to, it's at the register, but they wanted it clear as mud in the ordinance because it affected our community rating system evaluations statewide. And this is from the state ordinance, statewide model ordinance, with the exception of the standards that we have. The water heaters, furnaces, air conditioning, and ventilating units, and other electrical, mechanical, or utility equipment or apparatus shall be elevated to be no lower than 2 feet above the base flood elevation, or at least 3 feet above the highest adjacent grade where no base flood elevation exists, and shall be anchored to resist flotation, collapse, and lateral movement. Beyond that, what you're effectively approving that's any different than what we've got is the flood index, or the flood panel index. I gotta find it. It's on page 1236. We have new panels in a portion of the county. And so they require us to readopt all the panels whenever they do that. But this has to be adopted by April 25th, or we risk being kicked out of the National
Sure.
Flood Insurance Protection Program, and you don't want to do that, but it's extra.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, got a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor? Vote. All right, number 2.
Number 2 is, I believe, bed and breakfast. And it starts on page 30 of 36. And all we're doing is adding the language to the definition. Right now, we've got bed and breakfast in the end. And if you looked at that definition, it included everything that was a stay of 30 days or less. But we still continue to get questions from the public about, well, where is Airbnb or where's short-term rental? So we're adding and any other form of short-term rental to the definition label. In the context of discussing this at Planning and Zoning Committee last month, I think, we also had a discussion about a recent request that was denied by the Board of Zoning Appeals, because every one of these, if you look in the ordinance later on in here, they're put in the ordinance under use permissible on appeal, which means you've got to get Board of Zoning Appeals approval to be able to exercise that use in a residential district. But the question came up about, I guess, sexual predators being able to rent in close proximity to a school or other at-risk facilities, daycares, things like that. So what we did is at the bottom of the definition, you'll see this definition is non-inclusive of RV or mobile home accommodations, as those would be defined as permitted under provisions found in the zoning resolution for RV parks, camping, or public recreation, if not already covered by state ag provisions. Furthermore, these facilities shall not generally be located within 1,000 feet of the property corners of a facility that is referenced in Tennessee Code Annotated 40-39-211, Section E, which I trust with Mike's assistance that is the correct state code citation, including but not limited to a school, a daycare, public park, or playground. The regulation of a bed and breakfast, inns, and short-term rental shall be subject to limitation as provided in Tennessee Code 13-7601 through 606, where operation of short-term rental predating local adoption of short-term rental regulations is also present. What that's talking about is we passed our short-term rental bed and breakfast ordinance in March of 2018. In May of 2018, the state of Tennessee passed a short-term rental law that effectively took authority away from local governments for anything that was already operating prior to their state law. So effectively what it did, because they're only a couple months apart, is anything that was already operating to prove they were paying taxes and doing short-term rental prior to 2018 or spring of 2018, we traditionally have not went in and acted on that. In reading further in the law, there was discussion about this. If it changes hands or changes ownership, they lose that grandfather status and they do have to come to the board, right, to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So if you had one that was operating prior to 2018, as long as it stays in the same ownership, they can continue to do so and we can't touch it. But if they come, yeah, if they sell it or somebody inherits it or whatever, and it changes ownership, technically they're supposed to come back in. And we would be dependent on somebody filing a complaint and us going in on them and sending them a letter telling them, hey, we have noticed you're operating a bed and breakfast. Of course, they're gonna argue with us. They've always been doing it, particularly if it's an inheritance. But we're going to tell them nonetheless, they gotta go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and seek accommodations under the Board of Zoning Appeals process. And other than that, it's just adding the language short-term rental or short-term rental to bed and breakfast facilities.
No question. This is the exact language that was recommended by the planning commission. Yes.
To my knowledge, yes. I'm not a lawyer. I did look in the TCA and try to find the correct citations. So, as long as those citations are correct, with Mike's blessing, I think it's correct.
We're gonna send it out if y'all approve it tonight, and then we'll double check that. Was back, Tom, I need these in the room. It's gotta go out tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But I mean, you gonna redo anything?
So far, no.
Well, one of these is on the back of another one, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, I can print separate.
okay, I
PDFs
just
for you.
need to get.
Okay. Print separate PDF.
I just need to get.
The last, we did.
Any more discussion about this? You're taking a motion.
Motion to approve pending confirmation of the TCA.
Second. Any more discussion, questions? All in favor?
Thank you.
Opposed?
Okay, the next item is a amendment, for grass and weeds. We have attempted to enforce grass and weed requirements over the past, I think, 10 to 11 years. And, what we have found is that it is terribly difficult to enforce. Typically, either someone, if you go to that, knock on the door and say, hey, we mow your lawn, do this ordinance, they'll mow it. If they don't, 80% might mow it, because 20% choose not to mow it. They get the third letter. Our only recourse is to send it to Mike for court action. And one of two things either happens: either winter comes and the grass all dies, or it goes to court. And by the time it gets around to getting to court, they've mowed. And secondly, or it's changed ownership and it's been mowed. Or secondly, they something, something else happens with regard to your property. So, in terms of them coming back, and what I was trying to say, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. If they either mow right before court, and then 2 months later, guess what? The grass is high again.
It's an impossible ordinance.
It's an impossible ordinance to,
That's the difference.
yeah, it's an impossible ordinance to enforce. So, motion second, thank you.
I got a question about the grass. I know one time in my district, these people had 10 acres and their house sit right,
This wouldn't have applied to it anyways.
well, this house sitting right in the front. So technically their yard was half acre.
Yeah.
So we couldn't send them no letter because they were on 10 acres.
That's correct.
That don't seem right.
Well, the way the ordinance is written right now, it's gotta be in a major subdivision per our sub-reg, which is 5 lots or more. It also has to have, it also has to have an average lot size of less than 2 acres.
He's one of the leads I'll get.
I'm gonna get out there.
You wanna get out of the grass business. Is this in the subregs or the?
It's in the zoning.
Looking for a motion to
We
make.
don't have a-
So
Yes.
moved. Second.
It's in the subdivision reg?
No, it's in the zone reg.
Okay.
It just
Make it-
refers to a subdivision regulation standard.
So you're saying y'all gonna just do away with that?
Yeah,
We're not gonna do it. Because it's unenforceable.
it is.
But at least we could bully them if they might. Look,
You can go over and get your bush out with it too.
I've done that.
Okay.
before.
It's just really hard to enforce.
It's costing us money to try to enforce it.
Well, yeah, we're
Well, it's
sending
not-
an inspector
It's
out
just
there.
never.
Until you got somebody in your
We're sending
city that's
people
got
out.
high
They're-
grades.
We're sending
If
letters.
they do go out there,
If-
on the court, paying,
Mhm.
I mean, I know we already
Repeat.
pay him, but it's just, it is a waste.
She's been doing something else.
All right, got a motion and second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You're a controlled burn, right, Mark?
Get a camera.
Legacy practice.
Okay, you've got budget discussion?
I've got 3 budgets to send to you tonight.
This is just information, we're gonna.
No, this is, I'm hoping that we can take action on it.
That's your.
Without Jerry?
And, I can issue my needs assessment fees too. So the first one is, the planning budget. You'll see nothing has changed from, this is the status quo budget. Nothing has changed from last year to this year in terms of the budgeted amounts. All right? The next one,
I've got a question about this one now.
okay.
Do you have any particular line in here that's still totaling most of what was funded to?
Well, I do.
Does he have any particular line in here? That most of the money is still laying there, not being utilized in the last 12 months.
Yes, I do have my consulting line item, but we're about to hit that pretty hard with the land use plan. That would be the only one I can think of that's totaling the majority of the money. And that's for, the Corps of Engineers, projects that we have going forward, as well as the land use plan at present. And then eventually after that, as you'll see on my 5-year capital plan, we've also got to do updates to the zoning ordinance as a whole, and things of that
So
nature.
you're asking us to accept your staff program
Yes. For planning.
without Jerry?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? All right.
Okay. The next item is, the building inspector budget. And this is somewhat related to the zoning inspector budget. There you go. And, you'll see in 2024 that they wanted me to use ClearGov in terms of printing this out. There was no budget for this line item or for this budget last year. This was a part of, 750. This is the split out and putting this money, in these different line items for the existing employees we have and the existing operations we have. So effectively what you see here is what was split off and given to 730 for the building inspector's office, which consists of 5 employees,
In status.
and it's effectively status quo. Yes.
All zero.
And I will go ahead and give you the next one, which is the zoning budget, which is 750, and it is the parent budget that 730 will have came out of. If you see the difference with one exception, if you look over at the difference column, you'll notice that the majority of these numbers match what was
Where do you back
posted.
these up?
Yeah, back these out of. The only thing would be, I made some adjustments to the payroll line item that the director of the zoning office was in. They were previously in 103 under the 750 budget. I've put them in 105 because that's a more appropriate line item according to HR and finance for the director, the supervisor director of that department to call with them. So I moved them from 103, and you'll see that notification there. And then the rest of them, are pretty well just a back out of the, what you put in 730 is the difference. There is one thing I'll note, line item 308 and 709, are out of order, and I don't know why, that's just something in Clear Grove. But they're down at the very bottom. So
Entertain a motion to accept the building inspector as that ordinance.
Motion to accept.
Second. Favor? Alright.
okay.
You do both of those, Bob.
So, the next item I've got is, my planning division needs assessment. I'm asking for a new line item to us. We've typically taken such things out of an office supplies line item, but I'm asking for, I'm sorry, here you go. Asking for a new line item, uniforms, and add $1,000 to, or $1,600 to it for the planning commission. And you're gonna see this in all three of my agencies. This would be a new line item for this division. Identification by clothing and jackets, et cetera, is becoming increasingly important for all departments within the development services umbrella, is we're all required to enter private properly daily in many instances. So it's good for us to have some identifiable clothing. We're not talking about a police uniform. We're talking about a short sleeve shirt with the logo on it, in the most part, maybe raincoats, something like that. To date, this division has not obtained department-specific clothing with the exception of the Development Services Director. That's me. I do have some shirts from the codes department that they have bought previously. Planning payroll, staff members within the planning division are appreciative of any consideration that can be made for additional compensation, considering heightened workloads over the past several years, inclusive of raises and or any other pay study, pay plan related adjustments. You heard a lot about that in a couple of the other committee meetings. So those are my needs assessments for planning.
Question, are you putting it in the policy that if these things get purchased, these uniforms get purchased, that they have to be worn if they are outside this office? Like on somebody's.
I don't have a policy developed as yet, but I do think that's not necessarily a bad thing to do for going out on field.
That way, if they're going out to visit somebody, they're wearing one of these identifiers.
Yeah.
It's policy that they're- And that protects us, you know.
Well, we
Protects
we
them.
do wear them, like I will wear them on field review, and I know the inspectors wear theirs, the building inspectors wear theirs,
It's a good idea.
And the zone.
and the zoning inspector wears his.
I would definitely like to see that it's mandated. It wears.
Okay.
Sweatshirt.
Just
Nice
accept it.
sweatshirt.
And like, start-
Singular.
Yeah, you hope it's tonight.
We just accept.
The next one is the building codes inspection. I'll pass this around.
What,
So again, we did split one department into two, and we also added 2 employees, regardless of whether we had split the department. Those 2 additional employees would have added to the expenses in the department. And those 2 employees were approved in previous budgets. So, under dues and memberships, I'm asking to add $500 to the building codes inspection line item 320. Legal notices, fund any necessary advertisement or notice requirements. I'm asking to put $300 in there. Line item 338, maintenance and repair of vehicles. I'm asking to add $2,500 in there. This office maintains 3 trucks with tires and oil changes, et cetera. And right now, I'd like to think if you look at that line item, yeah, 338 has got, that's the zoning office. So right now, 338 has got 1,250,
Left.
1,250 period.
That was what was budgeted.
That was what was budgeted. Oh, excuse me, that's still zoning office. Got the wrong one, hold on. 332 no, 338 has got 3,750.
Ooh,
And they're asking for an additional 4,500. I don't think that's necessarily how to keep them when you consider the cost of tires and. So, are you ready for me to move on?
Yes,
sir.
Okay, so 348 would be $100 in postage charges. They don't really have a whole lot of snail mail that they do, but this would just give them a little bit of money if they had to buy a roll of stamps or two to mail out something occasionally in the building inspector's offices, the people that are doing your building codes inspections. 349 additional printing cost, $1,000 due to permitting and increased inspection and procedural activities. Line item 355, travel, general, adding $500 due to increased continuing education and travel expenses, as there are now 3 certified building inspectors who must maintain continuing education requirements and attend things like state building codes officials conferences to get their continuing in. Line item 425 would be to add $4,000 into that line item. It was $16,000 as a joint line item, and at that time there were 3 trucks. The building inspector has 3 trucks. They have $12,000 at a starting point. I would like to get it back to 16 since that was the budgeted amount for those 3 trucks initially. Line item 435, office supplies, add $500. Again, this is uniforms line item. It would be $1,200 being added to this uniforms line item. Again, for them to buy identifying shirts and rain slickers and that kind of stuff. Line item 524, in-service staff development, add $1,000. This is again related to the continuing education requirements of having the 3 inspectors. Cost of living, pay-related adjustments. Of course, again, all the building inspection division employees would appreciate consideration for raises, given additional workflows directly associated with increased volumes of permitting and increased workloads. They occasionally deal in a hospital environment, as does the zoning office, as does the planning office. So we would all appreciate getting a little bit more pay for taking the tumble action on occasion. Not always. There's some nice people that come to see us, but sometimes the happy ones stay home too. So the total request for the building inspector's office is $11,600 in terms of needs assessment, additional needs assessment. And then zoning. This is fairly similar under a line item 320, under dues and membership, add $500. This is again because we have a newly minted certified, or hopefully soon to be certified zoning inspector. We have line item 338, maintenance and repair of vehicles, adding $1,250 in there. And I believe,
They don't have
That,
Yeah, we ain't got that.
Yeah, we-
oh, I'm sorry. I had to pass it out. That's why.
They'll try and look over your shoulder and there's a lot
I
of.
was going, let's see if I got it. I do. Got one? That looks better.
Sorry. So adding $500 to dues and memberships for continuing ed, for the organizations that have to be a part of, and adding $1,250 for maintenance of 1 truck and tires and oil changes. And I think again, under 338 right now, you've got,
37.
no, that was in codes. This is
So,
zoning. So you've got 1,250 in there now. This would give them
25,
2,500
maintain one
to
vehicle.
maintain 1 vehicle. Additional printing cost of $500 due to permitting and increased inspection and procedural activities. $500 for travel in general. 15. The numbers are a little different. Fuel, add $1,500. 425 is the line item. We have 4,050 in there at present. So this would give them $5,500. Uniforms, $800 for 2 potential employees that are going to be out in the field more often than not. Line item 103, zoning compliance supervisor director, at $5,551. This is a result of establishing this new department with a new department head. It's been newly amended from zoning enforcement specific division. The position has been evaluated by HR and compensation consultant, which resulted in the pay increase you see before you. The position given for the position, given the changes in responsibilities. And then cost of living, of course, all the rest of the employees would appreciate the same consideration for pay adjustments.
Any questions about anything? I'm just gonna pass this on. Budget committee anyway. Was a motion to accept? Where?
The last tree I killed was, my capital outlay projects and projected need for expenditures. This is something that one of the county commissioners suggested several years ago that I think y'all still honor and wish to have. It's just an idea of, sort of what I see on the horizon. Some of these are holdovers from last year, they're the same. Aerial photography, we did not get around to getting that this year. But the projected cost is $125,000, projected county cost is $45,000. Required flyovers typically would occur in the early spring. So in this case, it would hopefully occur in spring of 2025. Sorry.
What does that mean, flyover? What do you mean?
Aerial photography.
What, can the drone do that or not?
There are some drone technologies that can, but you really want a fairly high
I got you.
profile, highly detailed, I forget what they call it, but, pixelation.
I got you.
So anyways, so that's one thing. Potential plans or document updates, examples, and this is sort of speaking to that consulting line item in planning. We're in the middle of the land use plan update. We're still paying out on that. Countywide growth plan is coming to an end. It has thankfully been accepted by all parties, including the state. We just await the state sending us official certification so that we can record the documents. We're gonna need to do a kind of a comprehensive zoning ordinance update at some point. Countywide traffic shed analysis, and this is over the next 5 years. Countywide traffic shed analysis that potentially provides backup for requirement of off-site traffic improvements by future development. Right now, we can require pretty easily directly adjacent improvements to a development, but getting something down the road, unless you've got a little bit of math and science behind it that justifies why you need it, we really can't get that. That traffic shed analysis will give you that ability or something similar to it.
So you're saying you could make, or, you could make a developer widen the revenue.
You could say-
Necessary.
The way it has worked in Williamson County, although they have migrated to something new themselves now, but they've had it for about 10 or 15 years. The way it has worked in Williamson County is they would say, Mr. Developer, until this red light intersection is improved, while your zoning allows this density, we can only give you 50% threshold of that density until such time as that red light's improved. And guess what? The developer says, you know what? I think I'm gonna go down and improve that red light. And so that's sort of how that works. Projected cost, 150,000, possible 300,000 spread across 2 budgets for that type of project. That should say 3 new employees and/or job restructurings, reclassifications of current positions, given continuing projected growth. For number 3, reclassification analysis for positions in the building inspection department and planning office and zoning office to more accurately reflect current and future roles based upon job descriptions and specializations. Projected recurring cost and salary adjustments might be anywhere from 35 to 50. GIS assistant to accommodate growing use and requests for information in our geographic information system. Projected salary of that position would be $60,000 plus benefits. 2 additional assistants for counter help or clerical help or technical assistance in the 4 divisions of the Development Services Department: building inspection, planning, stormwater, or zoning divisions. Projected salaries would likely be around 50,000 times 2 plus benefits. And these are not things I'm asking for in this year's needs assessment. I'm just letting you know what's out there in the growth.
5-year plan.
Yes. Updated unified development services website and software applications, projected cost of $75,000. Move to a one-stop shop for all development services divisions. The projected departmental cost, not including capital costs associated with building construction or renovation of the new location, which I understand may be Collins Street. Would be new furniture, new computers, et cetera. Projected cost, initial ballpark estimate of $85,000. I just pulled that out of the air. but that's my best guess, for computers and such. Updated the county land use plan to accommodate, the county growth between 25 or 30 and cycling to 25, 40, 45 or 50. We've already talked about that. The cost of that at present is $210,000. We're in the process of spending that out as we get product. And then, the map plotter, we would need a new map plotter at some point in the next 5 years, and the cost is typically around $15,000 for an oversized map plotter. New Development Services Division data server, as we fill up data, and our servers get dated, from backups and everything. But at some point in the next 5 years, we're gonna be on the hook for a new server, and that'll probably be one that I'll be coming to you in an emergency, asking for a budget amendment, when that happens. That's typically how those go down, is been my brief experience with them. New computers and tablets and additional GIS licenses and connection for all three divisions. Projected cost $30,000 and then begin upgrading by thirds every 3 years. Additional vehicles and one replacement vehicle based upon additions to the staff and codes and zoning divisions, and projected cost $140,000 and $35,000 to $50,000 increments. Rolling watershed drainage studies for various drainage basins and karst features in Wilson County. We're doing one of these right now in the Spencer Creek watershed. The projected cost of each of these will be $125,000. There are 25 different watersheds that affect various portions of Wilson County. The watershed analyses would need prioritization per the Planning and Zoning Committee, Urban Type Public Facilities Committee, or some other committee with a personal stake based upon overall need for physical improvements within the watershed, or based upon need for additional drainage-based regulations within a particular watershed. Projected estimated $125,000 cost for watershed does not include the cost of implementing and any recommended capital improvement projects that come out of it. Right now, we're in Spencer Creek. I think it's been decided that the next one, if we do so, if we like the product that we get from the Corps, we would reapply or engage the Corps about the Spencer Creek watershed. I think it's what Jerry has talked about.
If we can get some information that's beneficial to us.
That's correct. So you're gonna use this one,
Spending money and it's not
Yeah,
doing us any
you're-
good.
you're gonna use that one to evaluate how good or bad it is.
It's really bad, I thought.
Right.
Correct.
And then consideration should be given to establish an independent county engineer's office that cooperates with both the county stormwater agency, whose focus is mandated to be water quality, and the road commissions, whose focus is mandated to be roads, and the planning division and floodplain administrator, whose focuses are community and county planning, subdivision and site plan development, and floodplain administration, respectively. Salary for one county engineer to start this office would be $90,000 to $110,000 plus benefits. That's my best guess. This officer's focus would be specifically on reviewing and regulating water quantity issues that either exist or arise in the county. While the position listed above may be a more pressing need, the office could potentially evolve to be a public works entity that includes the staff and construction equipment, seeks grant funding and other revenue, and undertakes various drainage or flood mitigation projects on behalf of the county. This type of agency is a distant vision of Wilson County's future, in my humble opinion, but would have the benefit of being able to perform work occasionally on private property with prior agreement of the owners to effect solutions to area drainage issues that affect multiple properties. That stands in contrast to the current agencies who are pretty well restricted to the right of way. And drainage improvements during initial subdivision development or site plan design. After that site plan is approved and the drainage improvements are reviewed, inspected, and approved, site plans or subdivisions, if it's off the right of way, it's the responsibility of the private owner. So that's something to think about.
But you can put an easement in that, make that, site plan have an easement for future, to allow this department to work.
Public utility and drainage easements that they could work in. Typically, they're still, because it's on private property, gonna need to have the agreement of the private owner.
Mhm.
But if they can get grant money to do it and the owner knows it's not gonna cost him and it's gonna help him with drainage.
But if it's put in the site plan and that easement is put in upon approval, you wouldn't need that property owners.
If it's a public utility and drainage easement, you may be correct. I'd have to rely on my,
No,
Well, I
that
think-
would give the county the ability to go and fix flooding problems that, have occurred because of nobody maintaining something.
Yes. That's right,
Correct?
that's right. But we would have to find grant money to do it, so on and so forth.
Right.
But it's something to think about over the next
The
5
road
years.
department ain't gonna do it.
No,
That's
No,
what I'm saying. That's what-
that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
It would
I
have-
misunderstood you.
Initially, it'd be a county engineer
Right.
that could eventually grow into a complete public works entity, kind of like what the city is at.
I got you. Well, we just had, I had an incident in Long Breezes area about an easement.
Right. So. But that is a direction we can consider going. I skipped over one. The provision of additional legal counsel for growing log of court cases associated with zoning enforcement, building codes, and planning commission. Issues
Might be
that
up for
come
that
up
tonight.
and should be considered. Estimated cost for a retainer, and this is my best spitball, and he can probably tell you better than I could, $75,000 for a retainer or someone of that type. More if additional attorneys are employed outright by the county, maybe 120,000 plus benefits. I don't know.
I can tell y'all something that's coming, and it won't be for me. The day's coming when you might pay somebody about an hour.
Yeah,
So when you paying a salary and they're here from 7 in the morning to 10 or 11 at night,
yeah,
that ain't gonna last long.
but that,
You're either gonna die out.
and that was, no offense to our wise legal counsel, he does a good job for us, but like me, he's getting along in the tooth.
Coming from somebody that's got to go to office and put this together tonight.
You're
This one is not.
You just got done saying so, right?
It's 150 to 250 an hour.
Committed to you, this is 5-year plan.
So anyways, I put it out there, my 5-year plan for y'all. These are
I
things that
agree.
I think y'all need to seriously consider as a county commission going forward. These last two are just to give y'all an update that we are doing something with the money that you give us for consulting and line items. A contract has been secured for the use of software known as My Government Online in the building inspector's office. The initial intent is to use the software to migrate our building codes inspection process to a digital environment. We will help streamline requests from the public for information about their inspections. Ultimately, it is hoped to migrate to online permitting as well, but before we do that, we want to make sure we can get the inspection process down pat, number one. And also, we want to make sure we can undertake online permitting in a way that's still user-friendly to the public, that still includes a good bit of human interaction when necessary, through the permitting processes, should members of the public have questions either about permitting process or interaction with the software application. This software also can be used for permitting and procedures and other provisions as we grow the system, like zoning, like stormwater, like planning. It has some applications that would apply to those divisions as well, but we're starting in the building inspector's office. My biggest beef about Lebanon's and unfortunately Mount Juliet's permitting systems is I do not think they're very user-friendly to the traveling public when they first engage the system to try to apply for a permit. And I'm still old school enough, if I want to apply for a building permit to build a shed in my backyard, I want to go to the counter and talk to somebody and make sure I got all my facts. Some of the systems kind of lead you to you got to apply here, submit your stuff by PDF or by CAD drawing. And some people just don't know how to do that. And then if they can't get somebody to talk to a human, they get really aggravated with the government.
This is why you need a uniform.
Right. So that's why we're taking that part slow, but a contract has been secured for use of a software application in the planning office known as Forerunner. This software promises to assist in verifying flood elevation certificates that we're required to receive for development within regulatory floodplains and making sure that they're correctly filled out. Additionally, the software will assist the certified floodplain administrators in maintaining the solid records that are vital in passing community assistance visits, read that as audits, by FEMA and TEMA personnel, which happen about every 5 years, while also helping us potentially gain more points and flood insurance rate reductions for the public within our jurisdiction through the FEMA Community Rating System program that we're a part of. Right now, we started out getting 5% reductions for anybody that's got flood insurance. We're now at a level 8, which gives people up to 10% reductions. We can get all the way up to 11.1. Some of that we may not ever want to do, but the more you go up, the more 5% reductions you can get for flood insurance holders. Lastly, it provides additional information access to the public regarding regulatory floodplain status as their property or within the county or within the community. This program will again grow and become more incorporated into our development process within divisions of the Development Services Department.
Okay, I had a motion and second to receive needs assessments earlier.
Okay.
We didn't vote on it. Yeah.
Right.
If anybody got questions, I'm just gonna go ahead and get that vote on for us.
I think you probably need to accept that too.
Well, we do that different.
Okay.
We've already ended the amendment line. All for us. Any discussion on this? All in favor? All right, on this 5-year plan.
Motion. Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Uh,
I just hope from here in 5 years. We gonna vote somewhere.
No, I've been lying.
Motion to adjourn.
y'all for hanging in there, guys.
Thank you.